Censorship. Warning. Censorship.
I'll never get used to that warning. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday, November 12th, 2020, and you have tuned into the Rebel News live stream. I'm David Menzies. My lovely co-host is Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Reed. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday. The big boss man himself, Ezra, is here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we talk about what's in the news. This is a forum for us to communicate with you, our beloved audience. And this is the part where Sheila lets you know how to get to the front of the line, to use American Express parlance, and get your thoughts known via something called a super chat. So how are you doing, Sheila? And like me, whenever you hear that warning, are you like looking around to see if you can get a life preserver? It almost sounds like abandoned ship to me.
It's one of those warnings where you saw a sign that said, don't touch this or don't break this glass, but you did it anyway because you don't like being told what to do by a stupid sign. And then all of a sudden it's like, warning, warning. And then the police come and take you away. That's what I think every time I hear it. Justin, just so you know, I don't have the Skype feed coming through on my side, but that's okay. Yes. No, it's fine. I can get by without seeing David's beautiful face, but boy, it sure makes the show more enjoyable. Yes. Yeah, I should tell everybody what we're doing here. This is the daily live chat. We used to just do our live stream shows on Friday. I can't even believe that. It seems so long ago, and it seems like, well, what else were we doing? Probably the news and a lot of things, but I love that we've expanded our live stream coverage from just the one day on Friday to full 5 weekdays. It used to just be Ezra on Friday. David and I host Tuesdays and Thursdays. We think there's more news to talk about than ever, despite what the mainstream media is doing. They're limiting their local news coverage and I know you probably didn't notice. Nobody watches them anyways, but gives David and I a chance to interact with each other. But it also gives you a chance to interact with each other too, you at home, in the live chat that's very lively. There's quite a little community happening there. A lot of you are on here quite early. Like I popped in 10 minutes or so before the show started, and there's like 100 of you there already talking back and forth. So that's kind of nice. The live chat also gives our viewers a chance to do something, and that's leave a comment. That's definitely something they're limiting on mainstream media news channels. But it also gives you a chance to support the work that we do here at Rebel News through something called a super chat. Now, YouTube takes some, it's their platform, but we get most of it. What you can do if you want to leave a super chat is click the little $ at the bottom. Throw some money in the pot there. The more money you give, the more characters you get. And you can leave a question, a comment. Sometimes we get insults. I'm not opposed to insults. In fact, I appreciate the feedback. Or if there's a topic you want to put on our radar, or if you want to throw a little money at us because we are doing something, a cause right now that you support, put it in a super chat, and whatever you put in a super chat, David and I will read on air and do our best to address.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you say, Sheila, how so many in the mainstream media have cut back their coverage due to fear, or they're doing the lazy man's way of journalism and just, sitting in their home and remotely reporting as if you can actually get the story that way. I mean, yesterday, Mocha and I went to Rogers' headquarters in Toronto. It's almost like it's housed in a castle. It's like the old Confederation Life business before that company got into trouble. And now that I think of it, I wonder if Rogers got that for a song. I always refer to Rogers with the nickname Robbers. For example, the Sky Dome cost the city and the taxpayers mostly something like $650 million to build. And then about 20 years ago, Rogers picked it up for $25 million. Imagine that, Sheila. The only piece of Toronto downtown real estate that depreciated by 90% in 20 years was the now called Robbers Center. And basically I wanted to scrum Rogers employees on the anniversary of making Don Cherry walk the plank for his poppy comments. And by the way, I still don't know what he did wrong. He was standing up for the poppy. And if we can get to it, our video that we shot at Young Dundas Square, Sheila, in which we determined that more than 95% easily of passers-by, and the video doesn't lie, folks, they weren't even wearing a poppy, and when the clock struck 11, nobody stood at attention and paid their respects. It was just disgraceful. That's what Don Cherry was going on about. But the reason why I bring up the Rogers headquarters is that it was like the Overlook Hotel in Shining. It was almost completely empty. We just saw one person walk in and out of that building. And when we looked in, we saw a maintenance crew. Here's the answer. How many Rogers employees does it take to change a light bulb? Well, it's 3, because that's how many we observed. And again, I'm kind of going off on a tangerine here, but Sheila, I think all our rebels, I know for sure, our boss Ezra Levant, we've never been busier than during this pandemic. Yeah. And because there's so much to cover. There are so many, there's so many issues. There's so much, shenanigans, for lack of a better term. We got to get out there and cut through the BS, don't we?
Well, yeah. I mean, just think about the news that the pandemic is creating. Yeah. Even if we just look at the flip-flops of our politicians and health officials alone, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Oh, wear a super mask. No lockdowns. Oh, wait, we're going to have lockdowns. Now you can only have 6 people at your house, and you can't even stand outside, and you have to wear masks outside. Otherwise, some lethal Karen is going to attack you. It's changing so fast. There's more news than ever. We could work night to day just on pandemic issues. Every single day. I mean, there's just so much, and it's happening everywhere because there's this patchwork quilt of regulations and attitudes towards the pandemic. Each one of us, depending on where we live and work for Rebel News, we have a different experience with what's going on with the pandemic. So I'm happy that we are busier than ever covering the pandemic, because I think all of us rebels, even just in Ontario, between you and Andrew and Tamara, the regulations are different and experiences are different based on where you live.
And Sheila, as I've always said since January began, and it got off to a horrific start with the shooting down of the Ukrainian airliner that took the lives of 57 Canadians as well as many others. This is the most insane year I have ever lived through. I keep asking the question, and time is running out on the year 2020, thankfully. Are we at peak insanity? And I got a story to tell you. I don't have video of it. I was in a rush. If it was any other day, I would have pulled over and I would have gotten video. I think I saw the image that was probably, this could have been the poster boy for peak insanity year 2020. I was on Yonge Street, north of Shepherd last night, heading north, and I drove by somebody, I think he might have been waiting for a bus. He had the, non-surgical mask on, but he had a little circle cut out.
No.
And he had a cigarette coming out of it. And I almost rear-ended the guy in front of me, because I went, I have to be somewhere. If not, I would have done a U-turn and done an interview on the spot. Folks, if you ever see a sight like that again, please let us know. How could I possibly make that up? And again, more proof to my thesis why Mad Magazine went out of business last year. You cannot parody the world in 2020. It's beyond satire.
You got to wear that mask though for your lung health. You got to.
And think of my goodness, all those chemicals on the box of that cigarette that he's ingesting, but he's got the mask on for this invisible Wuhan virus that's buzzing.
You know what though? Maybe he's not being like. Maybe he's not right out of her. Like, maybe he's one of those people who are like, they're making me wear this stupid mask to ride the bus. Fine. But I'm going to put a hole in it for a dart. Like, maybe he's just that guy.
You know what, Sheila? That's the thing, too. That's why I wanted to talk to him, because I wanted to ask him, are you taking taking the piss out of the authorities in terms of the masking legislation that, yeah, I'll mask up, but guess what? I'm going to cut a hole so I can put a substance in my mouth to ingest nicotine, tar, all the rest of those nasty things that go into cigarettes to make a mockery out of your health regulations. So he might have been the smartest and coolest kid in the room that day. Who knows, right?
You know what? We should get to, I kind of hope that guy is like that, by the way. I hope that he's like one of those guys who's wearing a mask that says this mask is useless. I hope he's that guy. We should get to some of these super chats before they pile up.
Okay.
But can I ask everybody who's watching right now to do me a favor? Give us a thumbs up. I know there's over 700 of you watching right now. Just click the little thumbs up button because that helps other people find our channel on YouTube. We know how YouTube sort of smothers conservative channels. We have 1.4 million YouTube subscribers. We'd love to spread our message to even more people than that. If you wouldn't mind just clicking that thumbs up button, that puts us higher in the YouTube algorithm. And there's 700 of you. Why don't you just quickly take a second and share the stream so that more people can find us? Because I know a lot of people are ringing the little bell on our YouTube page so that they don't miss any time that we go live or any time that we post a video, but they don't always get it. And I'm not sure how that's happening, YouTube, but they don't always get that notification. So if you share it, that'll help people find us. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get to some of these super chats. We've got WLMG gives us $2. I don't see a super chat, but thank you very much. Friends and Fishing with Paul gives us $2. You guys have the biggest balls in journalism. Well,
yeah, you know what? This is important, Sheila. That's definitely a male-related commentary. What do we call it for women that have the... Yeah, Mr. Producer's already getting nervous, but I'm not going to suggest anything. I'm not getting into trouble. I'm just saying she's got the biggest blank to be the corollary for the male version of that comment. I don't know. Sheila, what?
Courage. Let's just keep going. Sativa and me gives us $5. Mainstream news, nothing but lies. We should start to make the messenger accountable. You know what? Vote with your clicker. Don't watch it. You know, mainstream media relies on ad dollars to stay on the air, except for the CBC, of course, because you get them whether you want them or not. They're subsidized by Justin Trudeau. And, you know, to some extent, the mainstream media in Canada here is also receiving bailout bucks from Justin Trudeau. But if you don't like what they're doing, do not watch them. Their advertisers pay attention to that.
You know, and I'll tell you, Sheila, that's an important point. First of all, we can't make that decision just to tune out. They're getting the money anyways out of paycheck deductions, thanks to the CBC, thanks to the $595 million plus newspaper bailout fund. But still, it does add up. And a good example, I think the salad days of pro sport record TV contracts are over. We've seen with the most recent sports that have come back, the NBA and the NHL, Major League Baseball, all the ratings were down. And I'm happy about that, Sheila, because that means ad revenue for the networks are down. So whenever these contracts come to an end, if you have declining numbers, declining viewership, thereby declining ad revenue, why would the networks, as they've been doing historically for decades now, up the contract value? I think that money is going to go down. And I'm happy. The reason I'm happy about it is because these are the incredibly woke athletic spokespeople that are taking a knee during the anthem, that aren't even coming out of their dressing room for the anthem. Well, you know what? Go to hell. I'm not tuning in anymore to see that kind of garbage. And if it's going to affect you in the pocketbook, if there's a lot of people like Sheila and I that are tuning out, if there's millions and tens of millions, it's going to hurt these leagues and these athletes right where it hurts most.
Yeah, of course, because the people they are trying to please see professional sports, and especially male-dominated professional sports, as toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
They see competition and winning as a bad thing, and secondarily, they see it as toxic masculinity. So it's not like if I quit watching, they are going to come along and start watching because you're being extra woke. They're not watching anyway, so don't even listen to them. But, they'll never learn. Okay, let's keep going. Yorgie gives us $5. Hey, let me ask a question. Is the Alberta independence movement for real, or is it really Sheila and her family in a pickup truck? Wow. Hang on. I've seen studies that show that up to 50% of Albertans express some sort of separatist sentiment. And that can be something along the lines of, hey, we need a more Quebec-style deal, or we need to be completely independent, or we need to join the United States. And so that's a very real and very mainstream idea. It's probably more people than support the NDP these days, by the way. But secondarily, if we need to look at proof of the growing Western separatist sentiment on the prairies, just look at the Buffalo Party and what they were able to do in Saskatchewan. They finished second in 4 ridings. I just pulled up some results here. They finished second in Cypress Hills, Kindersley, Estevan, and Cannington, and some of those they approached 30% of the vote. And they were up against a very strong and popular incumbent Saskatchewan party. And I know a lot of people anecdotally have said to me, I would have voted for the Buffalo Separatist Party, except for I saw what happened in Alberta and I was concerned about splitting the vote and the NDP coming up the middle. So there's a very strong separatist sentiment. And with regard to the Buffalo Party, they literally formed like 90 days before the election. They had no money, no organization. They were only able to field 17 candidates. And they, next time around, I bet you they're the official opposition in Saskatchewan. So it's not just me and my friends in a pickup truck. However, it is also inclusive of me and my friends in a pickup truck.
But let me address that comment, Sheila. You and your friends in a pickup truck. This is another reason why my heart still breaks that you got rid of your Subaru Brat, because that pickup truck had 2 seats in the bed of the pickup truck, making it so unique in the world of trucks. So you could have had 2 extra family members or friends in the bed of the pickup truck, legally buckled in. So shame on you for getting rid of that wonderful Subaru, Sheila.
Yeah, legally buckled in, facing backwards and sitting on the truck bed. Just flat, your legs stuck straight out. Anyway. Let's keep going. Mark Cougar gives us $5. 1575 COVID cases today. Provincial lockdown today or tomorrow. You guys are amazing. Thank you, Mark. Maybe chat us back and let us know what province you're in. I know that even though Alberta has taken a very hands-off approach and leaving it in the hands of the municipalities, there's musings of what they call a circuit breaker lockdown coming our way, where they say like, oh, we're going to go into hard lockdown for 2 weeks. You mean like we did 9 months ago? And you want me to believe that this is going to be a circuit breaker lockdown for about 2 weeks? We're on month 9 of 2 weeks to flatten the curve. The first pandemic babies are being born right now. So no, I don't. I know that they're musing that these sorts of extreme measures are just going to be short term, but they're never short term. They haven't been short term. They said we would be out of this by now. We are out of this by now, by the way. We are out of this. Yeah. This is just, latent case counts. It's not what they promised it would be. And yet they're looking at case counts and saying, okay, we need to go back to ruining people's lives.
Can you imagine, Sheila, you were born late in 2020 and you are forever referred to as a COVID-19 baby?
Do you know there's a phenomenon in Alberta here? They're called breakup babies. Right. And I don't mean like families breaking up, spring breakup. When the dads come back from the rigs, it's like March and April when the road bans come on, so they can't move any heavy equipment on the roads because the roads are soft and the frost is coming out. So everybody comes home from the rigs for a month or 2. A lot of babies are conceived during that time. And then so 9 months later, there's a lot of January, February babies in Alberta. We've got one in my family. Anyway, John Day gives us $5. David, one guy to hold the bulb. I think we're talking about Rogers. One guy to hold the bulb, another to hold the ladder, one to make sure no women were harmed by the process. Yeah, we have to run that through the gender-based analysis plus lens, don't we?
Actually, I think what I observed yesterday at Rogers was one guy to hold the bulb and the other two to spin the ladder to get the bulb screwed in.
Wow. Kane and Mark gives, Kane and Mark gives us $5. Happy PlayStation 5 Day.
Oh.
I'm still on Super Nintendo days. I'm watching you guys on my new PS5. Congratulations. So excited. Love you two guys. Thank you very much, Kane. Durfi gives us $5. Also, China's financial involvement in the NBA. Yeah. We can definitely talk about, and all those fancy Nike sponsorships going to those overpaid millionaires in the NBA. But it's all slave labor, Uyghur slave labor, making Nike shoes so that Nike can sponsor these NBA players. And then the NBA players can just bend every time China gets mad at the NBA.
And you know, Sheila, when the NBA allowed the rule variants, you could put a message on the back of your jersey that wasn't your surname, and it was typically, of course, Black Lives Matter. But it wasn't, exclusive to that. The way the NBA peddled it, it can be anything in social justice. I just wonder if, and I wonder if any player did do this. I'm not an NBA fan by any stretch, but would it be tolerated if somebody put a message on the back of their jersey in solidarity with, say, Hong Kong or Taiwan? I bet you the social justice messaging committee of the NBA would come in big time on that and go, no. That's not social justice. That's political. Kind of like what Whole Foods was saying about the poppy last week. You know, you can't wear it if you work at a store because it's political, but they sure got to bend the knee that way. But of course, I don't think any of these NBA players are vested in what the people of Hong Kong and Taiwan are enduring with mainland China. China to them is just a place where they can get their sneakers manufactured cheaply, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, they'll take the money from any authoritarian regime. I don't know if they're particularly beholden to China because of China's politics. It's just they don't care. There's no moral stance on money and influence there. Ken Tate gives us $10. Just having a fresh howl at the clip of that lady hollering no after Trump's win in 2016. Methinks we're about to hear that chorus again before long, given Pompeo's statement that there would be, I think Pompeo's statement was that there would be a smooth transition into a second Trump term or something like that. I think often about the wailing and the gnashing of teeth that happened in 2016 when Trump won, and comparing it to the Republican reaction right now, where they're like, okay, well, there's voter fraud. We got to get to the bottom of this. We're going to figure it out. There's no riots. There's no crying. There's no screaming. There's no any of that performative agony that we saw from the Democrats back then. It's just like, okay, well, something obviously has gone wrong here, whether it means that we need to rejig what we're doing here in the Republican Party, or they're stealing the election, which is also the case. But there's a much more level-headed approach to this stolen election versus the fair one that happened in 2016 from two separate parties.
And Sheila, I want to add too that for 4 years, what have we endured? Fake news, fake scandals, fake polling, and now what appears to be fake pallets of ballots. It's not so much that the Republicans, as it stands right now, have lost, but it's that the game was rigged. And even with that narrative, you don't see the violence, the people making a spectacle out of themselves. And I just want to say to this, go back 20 years to 2000, when it all came down to one state, actually not even one state, 3 counties in one state of Florida. And the talking heads in the media and in the Democrat Party, democracy can't be rushed. We have to make sure we're taking our due diligence, which is why it took 37 days of recounting until Bush was elected. These same people, Sheila, like George Stephanopoulos today, It's like, come on, Trump, get out. Come on, out, 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 out. What are you lingering around for? The hypocrisy is unbelievable. It's a complete 180 of what these people were saying just 2 decades ago.
Well, and, there have been so many attempts to upend a completely legal election in 2016 that we forget some of them, like the impeachment, the impeachment, Russian collusion, fake dossiers. I mean, it's been endless, them trying to undo a completely legal election that, obviously you did everything you could. So why not try voter fraud? Yep. Like everything else didn't work. This is the last line of resort. So why not try voter fraud? It's just, and then they want to reach out to Republicans and say, let's heal the nation. I'm sorry. You just spent 4 years calling us Nazis, white supremacists, even though the Middle East has never been a safer place under President Trump. Israel's making peace deals that are being spearheaded by Trump, and they're naming neighborhoods after Trump in the Golan Heights, but he's also some kind of Nazi. I mean, they're saying, can't we just be friends? Sorry, you just spent 4 years demonizing decent people because they just voted differently than you. Go to hell sideways, people.
Yeah, and the demonizing continues. Again, just when you thought the mainstream media couldn't get any more sordid, you have people, brave people, true patriots, coming forward on the record, their full name being issued. Some of them are workers with the U.S. Postal Service, talking about the shenanigans there, about dumping ballots, about using a backdated postmark. And what is the media doing? They're going after the whistleblowers, as opposed to investigating and making the case that an incredible scandal has been done. And these whistleblowers, Sheila, they are doing so under penalty of perjury, right?
Yeah.
And forget about perjury. They are doing so, I would argue, at great personal harm to themselves and their families, because there are people on the left we know are so unhinged. And it reminds me kind of like last year when the Justin Trudeau Blackface, the first Blackface story, emerged in Time magazine. And most of the media in this country were obsessed with the person in Vancouver that gave those photos to Time, saying, oh, well, what's your agenda? What's your agenda? As opposed to condemning the Prime Minister for racism. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we see it all the time. Somebody does something good, raises a bunch of money, and some scold fun burglar Karen digs around in their social media history for something that was a little less than PC. And so it writes off all the good work that they do. And usually these people are the worst. Like if you dig back on their social media history, it's just grotesque. But, holier than thou and better than thou. And as long as it harms a Republican doing something, or at least as long as it helps the Democrats, who cares who we destroy along the way? We should keep going. Mark Cougar gives us $5. He's in Ontario. Okay, thank you, Mark. Cheers. Ford is going to say, I'm sorry to do this. Yeah, he's always so disappointed in himself that he has to ruin people's lives. But he does it anyway, doesn't he?
Is that Mark Cougar of the Cougar Mellencamp family?
No, it's spelled differently, but that would be pretty cool. Okay, let's keep going. Colleen Schonheiter. I hope I said that. Okay, I know all the German I ever knew I learned from the Hutterites. So I think that's a German last name, and I'm not saying it right. But she gives us $6.99, and no super chat. Zeke 2020 gives us $6.99. Okay, this might be a good time to throw to David's Remembrance Day video. You know what? I'm going to put my glasses on. Thanks, David, for your TO Remembrance Day report. As a veteran, thank you, Zeke. I certainly appreciated your accurate insights. Sad as it was, Don Cherry was right. He's right about so much. Maybe we could throw to David's a Remembrance Day video where nobody paused for
and thank you
1 minute of their life.
And thank you for your service, sir. The phrase around this time of year is lest we forget. Have people just forgotten?
Well, I don't know if any of them really are that interested. You know, they're too busy making money, you know, so they don't consider it a privilege to live in this country.
They want us to forget our heritage and to fill it with a vacuum of their choosing.
Well, folks, it is now 11:01, and as I stood respectfully and gave my minute of silence, I could hear all manner of people walking past me. This is extremely sad for me. I remember the day when, if you were at Yonge Dundas Square or anywhere else in the city, you couldn't get to a cenotaph, people would actually pull over their cars. They would get out and for 1 minute observe a moment of silence. And it's funny too, the authorities have been discouraging people from going to cenotaphs. It's about the Wuhan virus after all. They don't want any kind of mass congregations, but I can tell you, in the Eaton Centre, these stores are open for business. Walmart, Costco, I'm sure there's hundreds of people in those stores. And I guess at the end of the day, when it comes to Remembrance Day, when it comes to honoring our veterans, some of whom paid the ultimate sacrifice, is it too much to ask that you wear a poppy on this day and that at 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month, you stop what you're doing just for 1 minute, 60 seconds, and pay tribute? Well, obviously it is too much to ask. That's sad. Yet here we are, looking for those who are wearing poppies. And well, the camera doesn't lie, folks. I see here's a lady, that's number 2. So far, 2 poppies. And I guess it's looking like Don Cherry did make a valid case that we once had a saying, lest we forget, and now it looks like the vast majority of the populace has indeed forgotten. I would say 95% of the people we've observed are not wearing poppies. What do you make of this?
The only thing I can say is people probably avoiding places where the people are collecting, right? So yeah, I don't think it's anything against the poppies themselves. And that again, they got that bank, Chinese bank there to pay for a poppy, which is kind of not the best. So.
Well, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I'm not from Toronto. I'm from Saskatchewan. I think it's more, I mean, this is just how I was raised to wear it. I don't know why you don't see it around much here. Perhaps, you know, there's not a lot of patriotism and, you know, inculcated in young people, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, you know, certainly the expression for this time of year is lest we forget. Do you think we've forgotten?
Well, that would be a sad thing to admit, but, you know, I saw an older gentleman over there where he's got his bagpipes and he's got his poppy on, and, you know, I was on I just got off the TTC when it was 11 or 10:59, and the TTC stopped. They stopped so I mean, you have different levels. I hope we haven't forgotten.
You know, Sheila, I got to tell you that assignment yesterday really rattled me to my core. We were driving down to Yonge Dundas Square, and I remember saying to our ace cameraman and film editor, Mocha, you know, I won't be surprised if it's 50-50, if we see 50% of the people not wearing a poppy. Oh, Sheila, if only. And I said 95%. Well, listen, the camera, you saw the footage, Sheila. I think it was more like 99%, don't you think? And, you know, that bagpiper I interviewed, I think he was too polite by half when he said, well, you know, it's about people not wanting to congregate. Well, first of all, you can still wear a poppy and self-isolate, but they were congregating by the thousands in the Eaton Centre. Hey, there might have been a sale on at one of the stores there, and you know, we can't even wait 1 minute at 11 a.m. I am just ashamed of my fellow citizens. I mean, it is such a small sacrifice. You couldn't put a loonie or a toonie or a $5 bill in a poppy box and put that flower on, and you couldn't stand still for 1 minute on what was easily the most gorgeous Remembrance Day I have ever experienced. It was like plus 20 in Toronto yesterday, Sheila. So I don't know. You saw the footage yourself. What are your thoughts, Sheila?
As I was watching that, I was thinking about the amount of people who are all of a sudden diligently trained to do their civic duty and wear a mask outside on the street. They're all doing that. They're all thinking about grabbing that mask before they leave the house so that they can walk down the street and do this performative gesture of social hygiene of wearing a mask. They all do that. And they're the first to scold people who aren't wearing a mask. Why don't they look at the poppy the same way? It's for 1 week or 11 days a year. You know, I usually stick mine on right after Halloween. That's usually when I have mine. And they don't do that. Just for 11 days of the year, they don't treat it the same way. But yet this herd mentality has trained people so quickly to grab that mask on the way out the door and wear it.
Oh, Sheila.
I think am I back
there you
now?
go. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
No.
But they wear it to show everybody that they have it. That's really important. They don't even wear it properly, but they show everybody that they have this stupid mask. They can't do the same thing with the pop.
Oh, Sheila, you make a fantastic point as always, but it's beyond this herd mentality of always wearing a mask. It's this entitlement to shame people not wearing a mask. We've had a few stories like the Dollarama Karen losing her marbles at a woman who had a medical exemption for not wearing a mask. So they feel entitled to become the mask police. And here, and also there was a story I did of a young individual who got beaten unconscious when he exited the subway for not wearing a mask, had to be hauled off to a hospital via ambulance. So there's a militancy, and this is the thing I don't want to see happen about the poppy. We can't be militant about it. We can't, have a law, if you will, saying you must wear a poppy on November 11th, because it goes against the very thing that the veterans were fighting for, which is freedoms, which includes freedom of choice. And at the end of the day, as I said in the close to my report, Sheila, for all of you people yesterday that couldn't give a tinker's damn about wearing a poppy, that's okay. You have the veterans to thank for that, because the freedom here is you have the freedom in Toronto in the year 2020 to be disrespectful if you so choose. It's true.
Let's keep going, because we have a Fight the Fines win from Avi that we really should talk about.
Yes.
I also want to talk about Ben Bankas's video, which was super fun. And the Anne Hathaway, he's so funny. Yeah. And the Anne Hathaway, it's hard to be funny on TV, and it's hard to be funny like in a skit. That's tough. I can't do it. So I admire Ben's work, and we have to talk about Anne Hathaway.
Yes.
Who's in trouble for being an actor, I guess. I don't know. Let's get through these, and then we'll get to Avi. Okie Dave gives us $5. No super chat. Thank you very much. Eric Burns Marsh gives us $5. I'm in the States. I wish we could trade California, Oregon, and Washington for Sheila, the pickup truck, and the rest of Alberta and Saskatchewan. Eric, I'm willing to see your proposal. I'm listening. I want to know what you're offering. I'm open-minded. Colleen Sean Heiter gives us $6.99. Can Rebel do an investigation into what treatments are being given to COVID patients in Canada? What is being offered here? You know, I think that varies by province also. So yeah, maybe I'll poke around on that a little bit and just see what's what. Because we're not hearing a lot about what the treatments are we? We're hearing about what we need to do flatten the curve all the time, but we don't really hear what's happening on the other side for those. I guess it's 11 ICU patients in all of Saskatchewan right now.
Yeah, that's the sort of the treatment that you alluded to earlier, Sheila. The medical authorities are on now. Certainly in the last 24 hours in the news cycle, the term circuit breaker, which has nothing to do with electricity, is being used by these health authorities about just a complete and absolute lockdown of the economy, like you said, that we experienced months ago. Of course, there's always pages and pages of exemptions, including 5 to 10 flights from China a day arriving in Canada. I don't know if that's part of the circuit breaker they're talking about this time around, but I'm terrified of that simply for what it's going to do to those businesses that are just hanging on right now, Sheila.
It's true. Jacques Cant gives us $5. Notice how YouTube had an error last night that prevented all video from playing. Yeah, it did. It lasted about 10 minutes. I think it went a little longer than that, actually. I was on the treadmill when it happened, and I had to watch Netflix instead. I'm thinking a beta test. Any thoughts? I'm not sure what happened there. It could be just as simple as just an outage. Maintenance outage, whatever. I don't work for YouTube. I'll never work for YouTube. But I'm not sure why it went down. But, other social media platforms go down from time to time. Facebook does, Twitter does, and those are the best moments of my life.
A lot of people on the treadmill, Lady Menzoy just bought last week a new treadmill, and she's making great progress. At first I was observing her exercising, Sheila. I didn't like how slow the pace was. So I said this to her. I said, this is such a new high-tech model, Lady Menzoy, that if you can reach a certain speed, the center console opens and a panel comes out with a jelly donut on it. Oh my God, she was like Lindsay Wagner, the bionic woman. She was running so fast. So psychology.
You stop it. That woman is an absolute saint. Not only did she take one for all of womankind by taking you off the market, but she continues to put up with you. So you just stop. And I'm going to text her afterwards and congratulate her on her new commitment to personal health.
There you go.
Yes. Okay. Richard Hunt gives us $20. So happy to support the Rebel. Thank you very much. Sheila, check out Rebel Whiskey. I will check out Rebel Whiskey. Thank you. Do they have a cinnamon version? I'm partial to the cinnamon whiskey and may help you get through the JTBS. LOL. Yeah, I take a little hoot off the cinnamon whiskey when I'm reading my access to information. Sometimes it helps me get through the driest parts. Okay.
You know what, Sheila? We should patronize all those businesses that make a product with the word Rebel in it. So there's Rebel Whiskey for you. There is a version of the Ram pickup truck called the Rebel. And,
that's great.
And if you have the money and if you can find one that hasn't rusted into oblivion, American Motors used to make a muscle car called the Rebel. So I'm sure there's some other stuff out there. So, maybe we can incorporate that into the Rebel store. I'd be happy to test drive for Chrysler the new Rebel pickup truck. So send one over.
I'm sure you would. It would be refreshing for you to drive an actual vehicle instead of that little green thing that you drive, that little hybrid. You plug it into the wall. It's electric. Okay. Now, Justin has advised us that we need to direct our viewers right now, especially those of you who are on YouTube and who continually miss notifications from YouTube for the fact that we have gone live. Please go to rebelnews.com. So that's the main page. Go to the live stream tab. Justin's going to do this with us. So go to live stream tab and you can sign up right there and we'll notify you when we're going live so that you never miss any time David or I are doing something fun on air, or Ezra's doing something informative, doing his soliloquies about chapstick that he did that one time. Anyway, just go on there, sign up, and we'll let you know when we go live so that you never miss a chance. And you know what? Tell your friends, because if your friends are not watching right now because they also didn't get a notification from YouTube, why don't you tell them that this is the best way to do it? Thank you,
I think Justin told me that in my earpiece too, but I forgot to mention it. So. And before I forget, since we're over halfway through the show, oh my God, we're
15 minutes left in the show. Before I forget, everybody, I know. Before.
Oh, I guess Sheila has lost her audio. So I'll tell you what, folks, while we fix that, because I'm not sure how many of you can read lips, why don't we throw to a video involving Avi and victory in the courts.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have some good news from here in Melbourne, Australia. As you know, a couple months ago, we launched fightthefines.com.au to fight for ordinary Australians getting outrageous COVID fines. Now, the process itself takes some time, but today I can tell you, breaking news, our first fightthefines.com.au challenge has won. Police have withdrawn his outrageous fine. Mate, fantastic day. I know you're excited. I can see the smile on your face. Before we get into your reaction, first tell us the story. We haven't had a chance to even catch up on camera, only over the phone. So let people out there know what happened from the beginning.
So I've taken the family out on the bushwalk over in Mansfield. Beautiful mountains along there. And on the way back, heading home, ended up being pulled up by police, and they let us know we're breaking the law. So we said, we didn't know, legitimately. So we took the family straight home. Thanked them for the advice, and of course a month later in the mail was a fine. Didn't have the funds at the time, doing double shifts trying to support a family of four, and took put the fine in for court. I said, buy me a bit of time. Anyway, eventually I tried to get it revoked, and the sergeant said, no, you've been served with the summons, that's it, you're going to court.
I remember when you hit us up, your story was not only compelling because at the time it was hard to know, but there was, in addition to that, you told me something about your security license.
That's right. LRD refused to renew my license because...
So that's the licensing department of Victoria Police. They refused to renew your license while this was happening.
Because it's like it's a criminal offence.
And security is one of the industries that, if you had the license, you could have worked.
Yeah, I couldn't because they refused to renew it. So working on the front lines in the hospitals, I haven't been able to work because they wouldn't renew it.
So how are you feeling today now that Madeline managed to get this revoked?
It's fantastic. It's amazing news to hear how it's been revoked, and yeah, they've dropped the charges, been pulled out of court. So,
did you think this was going to happen?
I thought it was going to take a lot longer. I didn't expect it to happen so soon.
You know, Sheila, I echo what that gentleman said at the very end. I thought it was going to take a lot longer, especially in this day and age of the Wuhan virus with the courts absolutely backlogged. This is lightning fast justice, is it not?
Yeah, that happened really quickly. However, I think it would not have happened at all if Avi wasn't shining a light on exactly what's happening. Even if that guy had hired a lawyer independently to fight the fine, I don't think it would have been as effective without Avi saying, "Dear world, look at what's happening in Australia. Look at these totalitarian thugs." I think the difference in all of that was the attention that Avi gave the case.
You know, that's a great point, Sheila, and it goes to the old adage, isn't it? What's the best way to deal with a bully? Well, it's to stand up to him, isn't it? And that's what Avi's been doing in Australia, almost as a one-man gang. And I think this is just the first of many. And by the way, we should say, since we launched the Australian version of Fight the Fines, we have seen the government actually backing up instead of getting their dander up and saying, "Oh, you're going to fight the fines, are you? Well, we're going to double down and triple down and quadruple down." No. They have kind of receded. It's kind of like, to use one of your phrases, sunlight is the best disinfectant, isn't it?
Yeah. Like Ezra always says, when you measure something, you change it.
Yeah.
And I know that he didn't come up with that, but he says it all the time, and it's true. Once Avi started measuring the response started changing. And it started changing across the board because all of a sudden there's this watchdog, and not just a watchdog, but a helper who's going to come in and help all these people that were basically alone in the wilderness until Avi came along and said, nope, we're here to fight totalitarianism wherever we find it. And it's making a real difference there. And people are more free in Australia because of the work of Avi Yamini.
You know, and it just shows you how governments and how even bureaucracies, they are sensitive to how they can potentially be portrayed in the media. And I go back a couple of years ago, we talked about this, Sheila. Remember that ridiculous hockey rink at Parliament Hill that cost millions and millions of dollars, and you got our man in Ottawa to do that big A-tip, and you're going through all the documents. And the one that stood out for me was a bureaucrat noticing, you know, hey guys, if we're going to allow hockey on this rink, we better put up a mesh screen for deflected pucks. Several years ago in Columbus at an NHL game, a 15-year-old girl was killed by a deflected puck, which is true. But here's the thing, he said, just think of the bad PR optics if a child is killed by a deflected puck. So the child dying wasn't the bad thing. It was the PR optics that were bad.
Yeah, it was the kid dying on your watch that would have been the problem. Just
unbelievable.
Well, we still got super chats rolling in. My mic is still working, so let's get through them because we have a couple more things we want to talk about. We should watch Ben's video because viewers at home, if you have not seen Ben Bankas's short video for us, it's pretty funny. His voice is perfect. His hat is perfect. The names of the dogs in the video, perfect. So let me just breeze through these super chats and we'll get to that. So Wolfcat Wildcat, $5. What do you think about the statements of making lists of Trump staff and supporters, but let's be friends? Yeah, right. Isn't it funny, though? They want to make the lists of Trump supporters and Trump employees. What are you going to do with that list? Blacklist these people? You McCarthy these people to death? What are you going to do? Deny them their livelihood just because they were politically different than you, you Bolsheviks? What are you doing?
This is Banana Republic crap, Sheila. It's beyond the pale.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this play out historically before. Believe in Jesus, $5. Did you hear when people asked Siri, how old is the president? It answered Kamala Harris. Maybe fix now. I didn't. I'm not a member of the cult of Apple, so I don't get to ask Siri much anyway. Larry Jackson gives us $10. Have you heard of asteroids worth quadrillions in metals? And there are many companies looking to exploit them. Your thoughts? I have not. But I'd love to mine the daylights out of the Earth first before we move on to outer space.
Isn't there a logistical problem mining an asteroid that's hurtling through space? I don't know anything about mining or space exploration other than the Star Trek stuff, which I don't think is real. But I think that would prove a Herculean feat to mine an asteroid, Sheila.
Yeah, I think that there's lots of, metals and minerals and valuable things in the Earth's crust that are just waiting for us to get at in a responsible way and create jobs for Earthlings. Let's do that.
But Greta Thunberg, or AKA my favorite Martian, doesn't want us to do so.
I know. Rachie Sweets gives us $4.99. What do you think about the irony of the United Nations Human Rights Commission? I think you mean Human Rights Council. Cuba, China, Iran, North Korea currently reviewing the U.S. record on human rights. Let's go back even a little bit more. Usually these lunatics on the Human Rights Council at the UN are focused nearly exclusively on Israel, this little sliver of democracy and human rights in the Middle East. And it's dominated by the world's worst human rights abusers, totalitarians, like China. They have millions of people in concentration camps right now, and yet they focus on the Israeli settlements, and they say settlements to denormalize what is literally a neighborhood. I think just last week, 7 more motions targeting Israel. It's the most targeted location by the United Nations, and I think to some extent that's because of this anti-Americanism, and they see Israel as an extension of U.S. foreign policy.
And Sheila, this is not news. It's almost been a matter of 'twas ever thus for decades.
It's always.
Yeah, these dictatorships, these hateful regimes are being put on a Human Rights Council, and Israel is vilified. That's why, as we discovered when we went to Israel a couple of years ago, Sheila, what they call the United Nations is the United Nothings. And that is great rebranding for that organization, let me tell you.
You know, the United Nations holds these like women's conferences, and they do it like Saudi Arabia hosts them, and it's like, I think you just let women vote in municipal elections last year. Yeah. I don't want to hear it. I don't. Sorry, no. Yorgi gives us $5. I wish poppies were more like the UK poppies. They do not fall off. The Canadian ones do. I agree with you all, but let's be fair here. They do fall off. Sure, they do. Yeah. So throw another loonie in another poppy box.
Exactly.
You know,
I buy a whole stack 10. In advance. Sheila,
buy 10. I do too. Yep. When I saw Ezra last week, we were at an event together, and his poppy had fallen off, and I'm like, "Don't worry, boss, I got you. I got a purse full of them." Every time I walk past a poppy box, I throw a buck in, I take another. I lose them. I don't mind losing them because I'll just get another, and the money all goes to the Legion.
Yeah.
So.
When it comes to poppies, you got to think like that Looney Tunes character, Foghorn Leghorn. You know how he always keeps an extra set of feathers in the closet in case he's incinerated in one of the episodes. So
it's true.
Be prepared.
John Day says, gives us $5. This year, Remembrance Day was cut back. In 5 years, it will be gone. We're being trained one day at a time. I did make an unauthorized visit to the cenotaph. Kaylee Smith gives us $5. Hi, David and Sheila. The lazy, brainwashed Biden supporters didn't show up to his rallies, so I highly doubt they showed up at the polls. Yeah, they want me to believe that people who sat in social distancing circles by the tens outweigh the people who showed up in the tens of thousands for Trump rallies. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Not buying it either, Sheila.
No. Wolfcat Wildcat gives us $5. Did you see the disgraceful act by the climate activists stepping over wreaths and handing? There's climate message on the cenotaph. Yeah, Ezra covered that.
That's right.
In his live stream yesterday. And I think we actually even clipped that portion just of the live stream, put it back up on YouTube so you can see just that. But it is very Westboro Baptist environmentalism, that's for sure.
That was vulgar, Sheila. And
all
I can say is I hope that whenever there's another climate protest, and that's how you can tell things are getting back to normal. Two things, climate protests and Islamist terrorism are back in the newspaper. I hope somebody with a contrary opinion to these climate fanatics brings their symbols and tries to be the skunk to the garden party. That was disgusting. Don't screw with the Legion, the veterans, and the poppy and the Remembrance Day ceremonies. That's off limits.
They're just gross, but they think that this is moving the needle somehow for them. There are environmentalists out there who are also pro-veteran, pro-military, pro-Remembrance Day. You're losing them when you do this sort of crazy stuff. Durfi gives us $20. Not a separatist myself, but I think a Quebec-style approach towards the feds would benefit most provinces and go a long way to a more decentralized federal government. I think part of the problem is the feds keep overstepping their bounds. In Canada, really everything is the purview of the feds if you let them have it. It's not like in the United States where the Constitution clearly delineates things that are the states' rights and things that are the federal government's responsibilities, and more things are states' rights than they are federal government responsibility. We don't really have that here. And we also have a problem of not recognizing that there are distinct cultures in this country outside of Quebec and Laurentia that live and believe and think a different way. And they just, you can't run a country this size from Rideau Cottage. You just can't. Not effectively anyway. Larry Jackson gives us $5. Do you happen to know which company is providing the COVID vaccine in Canada, and will Alberta use the same company or a different one? There's actually, I think, 6 different companies that have been contracted to produce one, including one that was the military one from China. I can't quite remember if they're proceeding with that military one. I think they are. And I know there was another Chinese vaccine that we couldn't even get to Canada for trials because the Chinese government was holding it up, sending it to us because of export laws around vaccines and stuff. So I think we might actually be kind of grateful for that. Durfi gives us $10. There are only a couple of things I think the federal government should actually be in charge of: national defense, borders, etc. But they seem to be increasingly reaching into people's personal lives. That's also true. And in Alberta, we've decided, we're just going to be in charge of borders because we don't like how Justin Trudeau's doing it. So we set up our own screening at the airport with regard to, health screening for COVID, and our own immediate screening so that you don't have to quarantine for 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever it is now. We're doing our own rapid testing because we don't trust the federal government to do it. And I think more provinces should be that way.
That was a great move, by the way.
Oh, very innovative. And why not? Why not? Mark Cougar gives us $5. So Trudeau didn't visit the National War Memorial for Remembrance Day, but was okay with attending a BLM protest earlier this year. What is wrong here? Fantastic point, Mark.
Not only attending a BLM protest, Sheila, but taking a knee. So let's try to, unravel this Herculean knot. What is the Prime Minister taking the knee to? People are taking the knee, I think, against the state. Justin Trudeau is the Prime Minister, so he's taking a knee against himself. It made no sense, Sheila.
Yeah, and I think
Mr. Producer, by the way, does say he was at a ceremony yesterday. So
yeah, he was.
But I so thank you for that information, Justin. But still, my original point about taking the knee against himself, effectively, that makes no sense to me, Sheila.
Yeah, well, and they're limiting our expressions of gratitude towards our veterans because of COVID, but we could all go protest at a BLM thing. They limit a lot of the Remembrance Day ceremonies were by invite only or online. And I don't think these BLM protests that our politicians are turning up at are online or by invite only. It's anybody shows up to the mob and miraculously the COVID is just going to go over your head and miss you.
Oh, and Sheila, at Elmer, Ontario, the protest the anti-lockdown protest that I attended last Saturday, you had the mayor of London, which is very near Elmer, warning citizens, do not go here, do not open your doors to people attending this protest. Funny that, because in London, Ontario on August the 29th, they had a Black Lives Matter protest attended by thousands of people. And not only did the mayor and the council and the public health authority try to dissuade people from attending, but you had at least 2 councillors show up and make speeches at this protest, which was far bigger than the anti-lockdown protest. The hypocrisy is astonishing, and I think it's just making people lose faith in what government and the bureaucracy and the health authorities are saying about this pandemic on a daily basis, Sheila.
I agree with you. We are out of time, but hopefully we can go a little bit extra.
Sure.
Because I think we'll use Ben's video as the dog video that we'll go out on.
Okay.
Because it is kind of a dog video. I want to get through the rest of these super chats, but we promised everybody on Tuesday that we would talk about Anne Hathaway. And I think we should, even if we just do for 2 minutes, if that's all right. David, this was your story, so why don't you introduce it? And I'm full of opinions about this, so why don't you go and then I'll go.
So as I understand it, she was in a show in which she portrayed a witch who had 3 fingers on each hand. So deformity, disability, there you go. And there is some sort of a backlash, I guess, by the 3-finger community saying, how dare you do this? I guess it's kind of like what we see with racial characters in film and TV, Sheila, that it is verboten now for anyone to depict somebody that, they don't belong to that race. So you'd never have, say, Elvis Presley in the 1968 movie Stay Away Joe, where he's depicting an American Indian, as was Burgess Meredith, if you can believe it. It's actually so bad it's funny. But the point is, so I'm trying to connect the dots. If an able-bodied actress like Anne Hathaway, who has all her fingers, can't depict a 3-finger character, well, how many actors and actresses have 3 fingers? I mean, Sheila, and going forward, what if we were to make another movie about, say, Stephen Hawking, who had Lou Gehrig's disease? Are you suggesting that only an actor with Lou Gehrig's disease could play Stephen Hawking? It is outrageous. And again, it's I keep asking this and I keep getting corrected. Are we at peak insanity yet in 2020? And then this Anne Hathaway story comes along. What are your thoughts on this, Sheila?
This is ridiculous. She's an actor. Yeah. So the fact that she doesn't have 3 fingers, yet she's playing someone who has 3 fingers, that's what acting is. You're not supposed to be playing Anne Hathaway in a movie about witches because Anne Hathaway isn't a witch with 3 fingers. You're playing somebody that is a witch with 3 fingers. So that's the point of acting, right? Like everything else is simply a documentary. But this is what she wrote. I've recently learned that many people with limb differences, especially children, are in pain because of the portrayal of the Grand High Witch in The Witches. Let me begin by saying I do my best to be sensitive to the feelings and experiences of others, not out of some scrambling, politically correct fear. Sure, sister, sure. But but because not hurting others seems like a basic level of decency we should all be striving for. As someone who believes in inclusivity and really, really detests cruelty, I owe you all an apology for the pain I caused. Let's just stop right here. Yep. The Grand High Witch here, with 3 fingers, is being portrayed as extremely powerful. She's the Grand High Witch. It's not a sign of weakness that she has 3 fingers. It's just incidental to her character that she's different. And if you do have 3 fingers, you are different. It's not indicative of anything. It's not indicative of weakness. That much is pretty clear. But in this movie, she also has no hair. Are the bald people writing in? You know, and I just don't understand this. And it's based on, The Witches is based on a Roald Dahl book that says that the witches are depicted as having thin, curvy claws like a cat. So now are the cat people going to be mad? Like, I don't understand where this ends.
Well, Anne Hathaway,
you're not allowed to. I don't know.
Anne Hathaway is a cat person. She played Catwoman in the 2012 movie Dark Knight Rises. But Sheila, no, I'm with you 100%. And also, I want to ask you this, my friend. Until that article came along, had you ever heard of the term limb differences to describe a handicap? Limb differences means that, presumably because she has 3 fingers on each hand, she's missing fingers. So by going by that vernacular, I guess I have a Ferrari difference because I don't have a Ferrari, right? I mean, it's perverse. Both the politically correct language to discuss people that have suffered amputations. I'm not making light of. I mean, it must be horrible. But if we were having a conversation, you said, "Oh, did you hear about Sally? She's suffering from a limb difference." I wouldn't know what the hell you're talking about. Just because you're saying somebody has a handicap or a disability or an amputation, how is that offensive in any stretch of the imagination? But like I said, we are going, in terms of, future movies and TV shows, if we're going down the road in which the character is depicted as, say, being in a wheelchair or has some disease, and now it must be mandated that the actor must have that disease or be in a wheelchair, wow, that's going to be a slim casting call, I got to tell you, Sheila.
We've already seen this with the trans movement, right? Like they don't want men playing trans women, I think is the right word. Like they've said that. Like, and I get, like, ectrodactyly, I think is the word. That's like that's a thing. It's a birth defect. It's a thing. Yeah. But, it doesn't mean that all of them are witches either. It's just a thing. It's a thing in the world. It's okay. My father-in-law's missing a finger from a trucking accident. I should have sent him this article. He would have gotten a real kick out of it. But we're going too far. We're going too far, and movies are going to be very, very boring, and it's just going to be a movie and then a series of apologies because someone was offended in it going forward. That's going to be it.
But Sheila, when you think about it, she didn't quite go full you-know-what. There was the apology to the limb difference community. why wasn't there an apology to those of the Wiccan faith? She's portraying a witch. I don't think Anne Hathaway is of the Wiccan faith. Do you, Sheila? So how dare she misrepresent a particular religion or cult or community or whatever you want to call that?
It's cultural appropriation. Religious appropriation, I think, is the right word. We got to get to these super chats because we're 10 minutes past the hour. Okay. Lynn tells us to tell Ezra the internet provider is Sky UK and still won't load rebelnews.com Fight the Fines UK. Okay.
Wow.
Ezra wondered that yesterday. Christina Pobloka gives us $6.99. Thank you, David and Sheila, for a great job. We love Rebel Media. Thank you very much. Viking Insane gives us $2. You owe nothing and you will be happy. Or you own nothing and you will be happy. Stalin. JWL gives us $10. How can I get a job with you? I live in Edmonton. I'm as smart as they come and I have guts and courage like we haven't seen since World War II. And confidence. You've got confidence. Send your resume to careers@rebelnews.com. Lee Purcell gives us $5. Does anybody know what is happening with Chris Sky's court case? I think they were in court today, were they not? I thought I saw some pictures of some people gathered outside the courthouse.
They were, and as per usual, I think, Sheila, it was nothing more than putting forward the matter. So many court cases are like that. They keep putting things forward and forward and forward. They're so backlogged, and I think he had 20 or so supporters outside the old City Hall court. So, well, I'm sure we're going to catch up with Chris in the days to come, and he'll give us a recap of what happened.
Yes. Also, do you guys have an update on Rocco Galati's case? I don't. I think it's just winding its way through the court system now. 1SG Rock 175 $4.99. The guy David spoke to about homeless veterans was spot on. Crazy by Proxy gives us $5. You can also support the Legion through the poppystore.ca. Actually, I do that. I have my Poppy mug. I've got my Poppy toque. I've got bought my mother-in-law a Poppy scarf. I've got Poppy mittens. I think even my kid has a Poppy backpack. I buy a lot of stuff from there. It's just another way to support them all year instead of just, during the remembrance season.
When are you going to get a Poppy tattoo, Sheila, or is that sort of off the table?
I don't know. I think that's more for like veterans. If they want to get a Poppy tattoo, that's fine. I am thinking about new ones, but Poppy is not one. Jack Krauser gives us $6.99. Shay 106.1 radio station played John Lennon's Imagine. I hate that song. Right after the 2 minutes of silence. The ultimate insult. Yeah, that's the worst song. It's such a new age garbage song. Durfi gives us $20. There was an idea, I think, out of Alberta that I really liked, where every province sets up their own revenue agency, it's Alberta, to collect their own taxes, and the federal agency just collects 10% from every provincial agency total tax. We are also considering setting up our own version of the CPP here. So, you people in the rest of the country, you got to figure out how to do this without us. You got to learn how to fly on your own, little birds. Time to leave the nest because we're leaving the nest. Viking Insane gives us $2. Don't be a Wickaphobe, people. I'm not a Wickaphobe. I'm a Wickaphobe. I'm just saying you can't pick and choose who you're offending in that movie because there are a lot of people who could pretend to be offended in that movie. And that's it. I think we're finally caught up and it's 12 minutes past the hour. And David, you should say our goodbyes, and then we'll go out on Ben's video.
Yeah, well, as always, thank you to Mr. Producer Justin behind the board there, to you, Sheila the She-Devil Gunreed, north of Edmonton. And folks, as Sheila alluded to, Ben Bankus, he's a stand-up comedian. He's really a super funny guy. You should watch his video. My favorite one is the one that ran last week about the ballot stuffing. It was funny, but at the end of the video, I was almost crying because it's true. And
it's real.
Here is Ben's latest video. That involves a dog, so Ezra fans will like that. And we will see you again next Tuesday.
I hate Trump and this is my house. We are only allowed to watch CNN or CBC here, okay? No Fox News, no Rebel News. I live with my 3 dogs, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Obama.
You're always so sleepy, Joe Biden.
He was a racist, so I never really spoke to him, but he was my grandfather, so there is a bit of love there. Kamala, stop ripping up that ballot. Give me that. This would have been my 8th vote. Get back in your cage, Obama. Sorry, your crate. Whatever. Made in Mexico. Go figure. So who did you vote for?
Trump.
You're serious right now. I'm starting to feel a little uncomfortable with this interview. Do you mind leaving? I feel like I'm between one racist and another racist. No, get the fuck out of here. You gotta leave. You gotta get out of here. I'm disgusted by you. I'm disgusted by you and your people. And by that I mean whites.